when we're talking about stress, I think it's really important to define stress. So let's talk about that. So, really, stress is our body's response to pressure, threat, or demand. Now, some really key pieces to this is that stress is a natural and healthy response. Stress is a biological response. It really happens on an unconscious level and it's not rational. We don't control it. It's something that just naturally is a response when we experience pressure, threat, or demand. We can't think our way out of a stress response. And we're going to talk a lot about this in the science of stress in that section. But really, sometimes we try to control or think our way out of stress, but that's not possible because it's a biological response. We perceive stress based on hardwired biology and our individual lived experiences, right? So there's this combination, and we're going to talk about how that happens. Now, everyone's experience with stress is unique. And so you might be able to handle something beautifully while your partner or another family member or friend, they really struggle with the same experience. That's because we all have a different wired biology. And so we'll experience stress in different ways. So, when we're talking about stress, what's really important, and particularly when we're talking about burnout as well, is that we need to understand there's kind of three categories of stress, right? So, there's short term, medium term, and long term stress. And short term is really acute stress. We can call it acute stress. It's on and off. So we get triggered, we have a biological response to a pressure, threat, or demand, and then we're able to easily turn it off, right? And so, in terms of that, it's healthy stress, right? And actually, short term stress can really help the body. It creates alertness and focus. It boosts the immune system and it builds resilience. So often we think of stress as bad, but actually, short term stress can be very good for our bodies. Now, again, what marks that is the ability to turn stress on, right? Have a natural stress response, but to easily turn it off. But then what happens when we have medium term stress? Now, medium term stress is a few days or a few weeks. And really, medium term stress is necessary sometimes, right? So maybe you have a looming project, maybe there's a deadline, something is happening, and you really want to be able to, kind of keep going to this end point. But there's some key pieces to make it medium term stress. You can actually see an endpoint, right? So you're kind of seeing an endpoint. You know there's a moment when you're going to be able to turn your stress off. Another thing that really marks medium-term stress is you're close to your stress threshold or your capacity, but you're not beyond it. You're close to it. So you're kind of getting to the edge of where you're not going to be in control anymore, but you are still in control. So you're aware and in control. And there's this clear endpoint, like I said. So that's kind of medium term stress. And that's a few days or weeks, right? Now, how often do we feel like we're in stress way beyond a few weeks? So this would be considered long term stress. Now, long term stress is weeks, months, or more. And it's always bad. It's always like detrimental to our health. It's when we're past our threshold incapacity and it really affects health in all areas: physical, emotional, mental, the health of our relationships. All of those things are impacted by long term stress. And it's really when we're feeling unrelenting stress. We're being bombarded by stress in multiple areas, and it really feels unrelenting. We can't see a clear endpoint. Now, this is what creates burnout. So, long term stress is the accumulation of stress, and that's how we experience burnout.